everybody. I am sending out this screencast today with just some issues that I wanted to talk about with literary analysis essay number 1. You have another literary analysis essay 2 that is coming up, which is due at the end of next week. And so that's your beginning the process for that second essay, and you're going to do that with some feedback from me on your first essay that you should be getting back today. So I wanted to kind of talk for just a couple of minutes about some common issues that I saw and point a couple of things out. Again, as I stated from the very, very beginning, every resource that you need to be successful is there for you in your modules on Canvas. And so I've been teaching this a long time, so I've kind of pre-thought about all of the issues that the common issues that kids go through. And so I've tried to make the resources as specific as possible for you, so that if you're spending the time, if you're taking the time to go through that module kind of agenda step by step and looking at all those resources, this should be a walk in the park. And obviously I know that confidence plays a big role in that too. So you're not very confident because it's something that you haven't had to do a lot before. But at the same time, all those components are in place for you to help strengthen your abilities and help strengthen your confidence. And so I wanted to kind of point out a couple of issues that I saw, but I want to show you just a couple of things really quickly. And just a reminder, I've done this a couple of times already, but it never hurts to do it one more time. So the first place that I want to show you in your modules is the Essay Resource Help Desk that is available to you. And I have them there for you. And again, I add things sometimes as I'm starting to see kind of issues kind of pop up here and there. But the ones that are constantly in there are like a successful essay checklist. And I kind of go over the rubric and like how it's graded, how to break down a literary analysis prompt, screencast, how to create a quote sandwich and incorporating quotes into your essays, 4 ways to integrate quotes into your essays. This document right here is doc specifications for 102. The screencast walks you kind of step by step how to set up your paper in MLA format, and then and it also goes over how to do in-text citations. It goes over how to create a works cited page. And I even have given you on that document, let me download it so I can open it up a little bit bigger. I even went over on that document the citation that's used for this text. And so if you've been paying attention, all the texts that are coming out of your CTEs and your 2 literary analysis essays, they all come from the texts that are linked, all come from this anthology, the Bedford Introduction to Literature. So if you're using this citation, you can use it literally for every CTE, and you can use it for both of those literary analysis essays. All you have to do is change out the author and then the story or the poem and then the page numbers at the end, and you'll have that perfect cited citation that's already there for you on that document. So make sure that you check that out. Watch that screencast where I kind of go through how to set up your paper, what that should look like, and make sure that you're doing that. Also, in your modules for each one of your there we go. For each one of your units, I kind of give you a step-by-step. Do this first, then do this, then look at this, and then so on and so forth. And I'm not really sure why those numbers are off. I just saw that, but I'm going to fix that just now. I'm seeing it. I think I took some stuff out of this document. But it's all there for you. So first, it tells you for this particular unit that's coming up to read this poem and paying attention specifically to this thing right here. What is exactly the speaker is attempting to get his lady to do, and by what means or with what means is he persuading her. I promise that if you're paying attention to these, the prompt is going to make a lot of sense to you when you get the prompt for your essay. I try to give you very guided, pointing a big neon sign arrow at what you're going to be talking about in your essay when I get you to read something. So paying attention to that. Same thing. Next would be like what you've read it, you've kind of jotted down some notes, you've thought about it, and then I give you my impression, my notes, my analysis, and I do a screencast on that and kind of walk you through step by step that poem and like what I think it means and how to look at some different things and just to kind of help broaden and deepen your understanding. Because remember, literature is subjective. It doesn't have to be what I say it is. You just have to be able to justify it. So you have to think enough about the text to be able to justify what you are trying to articulate in your writing. So paying attention to that is going to be super important. Same thing with the next poem. There are 2 poems again on this essay. So very similar to our last literary analysis essay where you'll have 2 poems with a similar theme or a similar connection, and then you're going to have not a similar theme in this particular one. In the last one, it was the theme of death and like how the authors use the different literary elements to articulate their views of death. This one is like, how do these characters, these speakers, reveal their true natures? And so you'll understand what that means after you've read the poem and kind of gone through my analysis of that. And then I also will give you, in addition to any screencast for this one, there is the prompt, obviously, but there is also a help document where I kind of help you set up your paper. Again, this is the second time that I've done this. I did this on the first one and went through it on the screencast. The only difference is I didn't use a screencast this time. I just kind of typed it up in a document for you. So like, here's the prompt, here's what you need to do in your introduction, here's what you need to do in body paragraph 1, so on and so forth. Here's how we tie it all together at the end. Okay, those are all there for you. They've been there since the beginning. Make sure that you're going through those screencasts and those resources, because I promise that they will help you. I don't just do it because I like to hear myself talk. As a matter of fact, I think I sound like cornbread all the time, but I'm trying to make you a stronger writer. I'm trying to help you break a lot of the bad habits that you've developed over the years, and help prepare you for the academic writing that you're going to be doing the rest of your college career. Okay, let's talk about some issues that I noticed with essay number 1. The first thing that I want to talk about is punctuating. When you're quoting more than one line of poetry. And I didn't count all for this if you didn't do this in your literary analysis essay, because it wasn't something that we explicitly talked about. What I wanted us to do first with that first literary analysis essay is just to throw out how those sentences, those quotes, getting those quotes in there. And so this is just kind of like one of those things that just kind of kicks it up a notch. I don't know if you've ever watched like Emerald Lagasse's like kick it up a notch. So kicking it up a notch and just making it a little bit more articulate, a little bit better structured. If you have more than one line of poetry, you're going to use the forward slash to indicate the end of the line, so that it rolls into the other one. Okay, so Thomas ends his poem with the repetition of his mantra one last time for his father: "Do not go gentle into that good night." And you notice that I have a space. I'm sorry, I get the hiccups sometimes when I'm talking. You notice that I have a space after, and if there's any ending punctuation, you're going to take that out of the quote. So that little forward slash is kind of like is operating as kind of your overall punctuation. So there's a space before the forward slash. That forward slash tells my reader that the next line is the next line of the poem. It's connected. Okay, we only do this for poetry. We don't do this for short stories or for novels or for dramas, that kind of, well, you can use it for drama if you're citing more than one character's lines in a quote, but that's usually not the case. But this is just for more than one line, and then we do our in-text citation at the end. If you have a quote of 4 lines or more, this is not something that you want to use often, because your writing, your literary analysis needs to be more of your writing, your work, and your thought process and your analysis than it does quoting. But sometimes it's necessary for meaning to pick up more than one line. And I gave the example that's directly below here, the last 4 lines of "Do not go gentle into that good night," I think really kind of are really kind of indicative of that, because it's the first time that he's directly addressing his father, and he repeats that mantra that he's kind of done the whole time. So that's there for you. So this is a 4-line example. So what you're going to do is you're going to eliminate any quotation marks and indent this 0.50 inches from the left margin, which we do with our hanging indent, like on our citation. So the final stanza of "Do not go gentle into that good night" articulates Thomas's purpose for writing. It is a direct address to his father, whom he is not ready to lose. Colon sets it up, and then my 4 lines, no quotation marks. I'm punctuating it like I normally would, and it's indented 0.50 lines. 0.50, yeah, 50 lines. I'm sorry, my dog is in my classroom right now, and that's a weird noise. Hey, Lincoln. Okay, and so that is that. Now, when do we use the author's last name in our in-text citation? So there are 2 ways to do a citation. The first one is that you can include the author's last name in your quote setup, so that you do not have to use it in the citation at the end. And so to do that, remember, we always introduce our author by first and last name at the very beginning in our introduction, and then we're going to use just the last name every other time, every subsequent time that we use that. So if I use the author's last name in the quote setup, Thomas's frustration is evident in the powerful line, "Rage, rage against the dying of the light." I don't need to include it in my parenthetical. However, if I don't indicate the author's last name in my in-text, that's when I stick it in at the end. However, that frustration is tempered by his sadness, which we can see articulated in the line, "Do not go gentle into that good night." And I'm checking. See, I make errors too. Not, and then I'm going to include Thomas because I did not include it in my my thing. Now, normally those 2 sentences wouldn't be together. If that's the case, if they roll right into the other one, it's really kind of not necessary for you to include the author's last name in that second one if they're joined together, because I haven't left that topic, so it's still Thomas. But just get in the habit of go ahead and doing that. If you use the author's last name in the quote setup, don't need it in the quotes in the parenthetical. If you don't, you need it in the parenthetical. Okay. All right. Next is disrupting the flow of your sentences. This is something that I saw pretty heavily in a lot of these essays. So what you want to think about with your in-text citations is you don't want it to disrupt the flow of your sentence. Take a look at this line that I pulled from an essay. Thomas frequently repeats the 2 lines, "Do not go gentle into that good night," and "Rage, rage against the dying of the light" throughout the poem, which articulate his mantra of fighting death. Okay, see how that parenthetical, those 2 parenthetical, kind of like makes it kind of herky-jerky. You stop and start. You don't need to do that. You don't have to do that in order for it to work. And sometimes, and you'll notice if you've gotten a note back on your essay, sometimes throwing that in there makes you lose track of your sentence structure, and you'll end up creating a run-on sentence, or you'll end up creating a splice. You'll make a major grammatical or structural error, and you just want to avoid that as much as possible. So the right thing to do is to take out your parenthetical and save it to the end of your sentence. And then you can combine it together. Even if you use 4 quotes in your line, or 4 bits of quotes in your line, I don't need his last name because I have that in my quote set up. I just need my line numbers, which I think were 6 and 9. Okay. If it was 2 lines running together, or if it was more than 2 lines running together, then you would use the dash. So 6 through 7 or something like that. Okay. And then remember that your closing period still goes on the outside, even though what ends up here is not a quote. All right, I'm going to take a pause and start a new video for the second part of this because I want to make sure that I'm going over all this very thoroughly so that you have that knowledge moving forward into the next essay. So I'll pick back up with screencast number 2 on issues with essay 1.